14 kids dead in an elementary school in Texas right now. What are we doing? What are we doing? Just days after a shooter walked into a grocery store to gun down African American patrons, we have another Sandy Hook on our hands. What are we doing? There have been more mass shootings in days in the year. Our kids are living in fear every single time they set foot in the classroom because they think they're going to be next. What are we doing?
What's going on, guys? You see all those red dots that you see on the screen right now? Well, each one of those red dots represents a different gun manufacturer here in the state of Connecticut. Yes, you heard me very clear. Gun manufacturers. The oldest gun manufacturer being Colt, going all the way back to 1836. Yes, you heard me correctly. And as you move closer and closer to New York, Jersey, and Philadelphia, what you'll see is there's no gun manufacturers, i.e. there's no red dots. Now, Colt Armory and many others, they all exist. That's Fairfield County. That's where I live at right there. They all exist and have existed here, once I said, and as I mentioned, since 1836, including government contracts. Now, the Colt Manufacturing Company with Samuel Colt, ironically enough, his company got saved by a man in the name of Samuel Walker of the Texas Rangers. Yes, he was the first person that got Samuel Colt, actually his, well, if you want to say his first government contract. And if it hadn't been for them, well, Samuel Colt may have not existed at all. By World War I, Colt had 10,000 employees, and as you can see, they wasn't hurt for anything. They were established in Hartford, Connecticut. Hartford, Connecticut, state's capital. Also, you'll see right here, this is Remington Arms. Now, this plant right here is on Barnum Avenue out of Bridgeport, which is also part of my county, Fairfield County. And this building has been sitting there dilapidating for the better part of a decade or more. Now, they'll either repurpose it or tear it down, more likely tear it down. As you can see, Remington Arms at one time employed 17,000 workers. Okay, 17,000 workers. Do you know how many guns that is produced with 17,000 workers? 17,000. Another gun company, High Standard Firearms, in Hamden, Connecticut, which is also not too far away from here. They made pistols. They also, same time, did the same thing. Got a government contract. They moved to Texas in the 1990s. Winchester, which probably more likely heard of, they assisted in the war, and their plant closed in New Haven, Connecticut, in 2006. Are you getting where I'm going here? They licensed a Japanese company to make Winchester rifles. High Standard, another one. That's a promo for them back in 1943. Also here and manufactured in Connecticut. Are you getting where I'm going here? And this might surprise you, and it surprised me. Ruger, the nation's largest gun maker. It's found in 1949, not in Gun Valley. It's in Southport, Connecticut. Yes, Connecticut, if you didn't know or weren't in the know, has had a long history of gun manufacturing that goes all the way back to 1836. Smith & Wesson, I know you all guys have heard of that. Norwich, Connecticut. I used to live in New London, and that's part of New London County. I have friends in Norwich, Connecticut. Smith & Wesson, another gun manufacturer, who I want to note made the first repeating arms, meaning outside of being semi-automatic. That's another picture of Samuel Colt right there. If you guys want a picture of him, that's him right there for the Colt gun factory. The reason I brought all this up, it's not to, well, for the better part, I don't want to dismiss Chris Murphy. I think he's a good man. I think he had good intentions or whatever. But sir, I got to say this to you. Outside all the gun ranges, and I know there's close to probably 70 to 80 of them here in the state of Connecticut, maybe a few less or a few more, we have been producing arms, guns, and everything else since 1836. And as you can see right there, by 1864, 276,000 rifles were made in this area called Gun Valley. That's an area that separates Hartford, Connecticut, and Springfield, Massachusetts. They're right next to each other. If you're not familiar with Springfield, Massachusetts, just think of Bart Simpson, where he lives at. I know that's a crazy analogy, but that's what it is. This Gun Valley way has produced most of the nation's guns, including from the largest gun manufacturer in the United States. So it's safe to say that somehow or another, maybe that pistol, not knowing the brand, or that rifle rather that he used, may have came from one of these conglomerates from those gun manufacturers that made that actual gun. Now, I'm not saying that Chris Murphy is wrong, and I'm not trying to take any credit from Chris Murphy. I think everything that he said is noteworthy. But Chris Murphy, remember one thing when you're talking. We make the guns. We have always made the guns here in this state. And since 1836, and every last different government contractual agreement that they've had with these gun manufacturers, we have continued. These gun manufacturers are still here to this day, including Mossberg shotguns in Hartford, Connecticut. Shout out to Tony Mossberg, D-Block. Now, like I said, I'm not trying to condemn anybody. I just want to make the public aware and understand exactly, as they're applauding this man, what we have done in our history here in Connecticut.